Now, I will say, look, let me be bipartisan here for a second. I asked you to say a prayer for Tim Walz, and I want to say something nice about Kamala Harris, because the one thing, you guys are all pissed off. It's okay. It's okay. The one thing I'll say nice about Kamala Harris is, while she's been a terrible vice president, and while we know our fellow citizens are struggling because of her policies, she is really good at getting us votes when she does interviews. So that's one thing. I think when Kamala does an interview, I think when Kamala does an interview, we pick up about 50,000, 100,000 votes. That's one thing she's awfully good at, because here's the thing. Think about this. Every time Kamala's in front of a teleprompter, every time Kamala Harris has a script in front of her, you watch these TV ads where she runs as far away from her record as possible, what she says is totally different from what she's actually done. And in so many ways, Kamala Harris is part of the same failed generation of career politicians who say one thing during campaign season and say something else when they're actually in government. That's really all Kamala Harris is. And that's what was so different about Donald J. Trump. Think about this. He went in there and said, we're going to unleash American energy, and that's exactly what we did. He went in there and said, we want to make groceries and all of the necessities of life more affordable for our citizens, and that's exactly what he did. He said, we're going to get in there. We're going to knock out ISIS and make America respected in the world again, and then he did it. This is what's different about Donald Trump and a generation of career politicians. Donald Trump fixes things. The career politicians break them. But I will say, look, you're never going to hear me complain about this job, because I will say, other than being married to that beautiful woman over there, the honor of my lifetime is to get to run and ask all of you to make me your next vice president. I'm having so much fun out here. We're having a good time. A lot of you know I grew up in a poor family. My grandmother didn't even graduate from high school, the grandmother who raised me. And now here I am, getting to hang out with you fine people on a Monday morning, ask you to make me the next Vice President of the United States. That's a great testament to our country. It really is. So I love doing this. You'll never hear me complain, save this one time. I'm going to say there's one complaint that I'm going to offer, and it's that, I watch Kamala Harris do her interviews so that you don't have to. That is the act of service. That's the act of service that I engage in. Is a couple of weeks, I watch Kamala Harris on The View, and I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you about it. And for the next 24 hours, we need you as sharp as possible. Do not go and watch this interview, because you'll lose about 20 IQ points if you do it. And we need you as sharp as possible, getting people out there to vote, getting your friends, your family, your neighbors to the polls. But here's what she said. And remember, her whole campaign is that somehow she's going to fix what we know Kamala Harris broke. And they ask her, what is one thing that you would have done differently over the last 4 years? Think about the inflationary policies. Our fellow citizens can't afford groceries. Credit card delinquencies are sky high. The border is wide open. You'd think she'd be able to name one thing that she would have done differently over the last 4 years, and you know what she says? Nothing comes to mind. That's what she actually said. Hand on my heart. That is what Kamala Harris said. And in that moment, she revealed that she is the candidate of more of the same. If you can't afford your groceries, Kamala Harris is the candidate of more of the same. If you're a young person, and I want our young people to be able to afford the American dream of homeownership, right? It's crazy that our young people can't afford to buy a home, and if you're pissed off about that as a young person, as you should be, Kamala Harris is more of the same. If you're a young person thinking about joining the military, or you've got family who have served this great country, by the way, thank you. Thank you for your service. We love you and we appreciate you. But if you think we ought to use the American military not to be the policemen of the world, but to fight for America's national security, then you cannot vote for Kamala Harris. It's that simple. Because whenever she doesn't have a teleprompter telling her what to say, Kamala Harris will admit the truth. Kamala Harris will admit that she is the candidate of higher grocery prices. Kamala Harris will admit that she's the candidate of 28,000 less private sector jobs in just a month. And I know Wisconsin is one of the proudest states in the union when it comes to American craftsmanship and American manufacturing. How can we vote for 4 more years of losing manufacturing jobs? How about we vote for 4 more years of peace and prosperity under Donald J. Trump's leadership? Let's take this country in a different direction.